أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي صدق الله العلي العظيم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Right, so today we continue with lesson 14 of our 16-part series on the basic Arabic grammar course. So today we intend to start off with the verb forms, and we'll cover 2, 3, and 4 today, inshallah. So essentially what we're going to look at is how tenses and moods are expressed in these verb forms. And then during the next lesson, we'll cover the remaining 5 to 10 of the verb forms. And that will cover the whole section on the forms. Now, the forms is a big chunk of this particular course. And if you understand this particular, the constructions that we're going to be showing you and the way the words look, and I think you will have mastered quite a bit of Arabic grammar, and you'll be able to use this hopefully in your understanding of the Quran in a far better way. Okay, so let me just recap the tenses that we've covered so far. We had the past tense, and then we had the present and the future tense, which is present like the way you see it here, and which if you add a sir or a sofa in front of the present tense, you get the future tense as well. So these are the three tenses essentially, and all languages have them. If you look at the features here we didn't have any prefixes. Nothing came before kataba in all of them, whereas in the present tense we have the alif, the noon, the ya, and the ta. It comes in as a prefix, and then as a suffix. If you look at the end part of the past tense, here is just the normal, the verb itself, kataba. Here it's katabat with the ta, with the sukun to show she. And then ta tumatum, we said, is the you version. Ti tumatunna is the feminine you version. And tunana is the I and we. Okay, so essentially there's just a change in the suffix, the end part of the verb, that makes it the past tense in its different person and gender and number. If you look at the present tense, the main feature we said is a stamaya, right? Yaktubu. You notice in all the singulars there's just the bu at the end, right? The ba or the dhamma at the end. If you look at the duals, the ani feature comes in. Just like in the noun, you have walad, waladani, bint, you have bintani. So same way, the anis come in for all the duals for the third person as well as the second person. Okay, and here you have the una, with the ya in front here and the ta in front here, differentiating between the they and the you in the masculine plural. And then the female has just got the letter n at the end with the ya and ta in front as well to differentiate between the genders. Okay, so these tenses apply equally to even what all the verbal forms we're going to look at in today's lesson. So it's important that we grasp this concept very well, because from here, from this present tense, we then move on to our moods, the three moods that we covered. One is the subjunctive. We're calling it, this one is a jussive, and this one is the imperative or a command. Now, I've put it on one slide just to show you the similarities and the differences. So the subjunctive, the fatha is the main feature here. There's a fatha here, fatha here, fatha here, fatha here, fatha here, right? All of these are fathas, but this one here had the tak to be, just the ya, okay, to show feminine you. In the dual, the previous table had ani, remember? Here we have yaktuba, so there's no noons that come in. The noons just fell away, but the alif shows us the dual. Okay, the feature of the dual is the ani, and here just the a part shows us that it's dual. With the first person, we said it's both for dual and plural is the same word. Then here we have yaktubu, without the noon again. And notice the noon fell away and we left with the alif here at the end. Same with this one. The noon fell away and we left with that, with the waw alif. And here we just had a na and a na. Okay, so those were the differentiating features for the subjunctive mood. And we said the subjunctive is easy to identify when it's in practice, because you just have to remember these 4 groups of words that always precede a word that is followed in this particular mood. So we have the li, like, ke, meaning in order to, and likeila and keila means in order not to. An means to, just to, and Allah is not to. Right? So you want to do something in order for something to happen, or you want to do something so that it doesn't, in order not to something else to happen. Then we have the lan, which is a negative future. That in future this won't happen. And hatta is until. Right? So any of these sort of particles that appear before a verb will make this verb into a subjunctive mood verb. Okay, this particular mood. And the main feature we said is a fatha here, no noons there, and the noons also fell away in these two, and here the noons remain in the feminines. So these are this is essentially just a slight variation of the present tense table, giving you the subjunctive mood. Then we moved on to the jussive, which is another mood, right? And there's a slight variation again from the from a fatha here. Can you see the fatha here, yaktuba, taktuba? Here we got a sukun. Right? The sukun comes in at the end here. Can you see that? All the sukuns. Even this is a sukun, sukun, sukun. Right? So all of them have the same feature. There it was fatha in this one. Here it's sukun. Okay, that circle vowel at the end. As far as this group of 4 goes, it's exactly the same as that 4 there. Right? So there's no change there. If you look at these here, yaktubu and yaktubna and all that, these 4 also remain exactly the same as those 4 there. Okay, so there's a big similarity between the moods. The main difference is more in the singular version. This one here, where we have just the last letter of the verb, the ba, taking on a sukun. That's the characteristic feature. So it's 2 features you got to remember. It's a sukun in those few, and secondly, there's 3 groups of letters. In is a conditional sentence. So if this happens, then something else will happen. You use in. Lam is the negative past tense. So if you say lam yadhab, means he did not go, or he did not eat. Lam ya'kul. So you put lam and you put the ya'kul with the sukun. That gives you a perfect formation to show not in the past tense. So although we're using kind of a different verb, not the past tense verb, but with the lam, you get the same effect of lam yaktub, means he did not write, a past tense meaning of that particular phrase. Then la is the negative imperative, so negative command. So if you want to say don't do something, like don't write, you'll say la taktub. Right? So you use la to give us the negative command. And that sort of segues into the third mood that we've covered, which is the imperative or the command mood. We did say it doesn't appear on the third person, it doesn't appear on the first person for obvious reasons because of the meaning. And here uktub means you, one male, write something, right? Or eat something, or do something, right? So you have, what happens here is you notice the same feature of the sukun coming in, which is the jussive, same feature here. Even this feminine is the same feature here. Right? The only difference is this ta of these 2 tas changes to an alif, and that alif, because if you're talking of the verb kataba yaktubu with the dhamma on the la and the middle ta, therefore the alif takes a dhamma as well. So that was the one where we said u for a verb where the 3 letters are in this one here. If there's a dhamma there, then you change the ta of the jussive into an alif with the dhamma here, so it agrees in terms of vowel. Uktub. Right, you put alif in front, and then you have your 3 letters in the middle letter. You look at the vowel, and if it's a dhamma, then you make it a dhamma on the alif. So essentially, that's how you give a command. you have to give a command to somebody who's present, and therefore it's only in the second person. So if you know these past tense, present tense, and these three moods that are appearing now, essentially you've covered a whole big chunk of understanding how verbs work, and it gives you like all the different ways in which you can use a verb. Okay, so and I know some of these terms are a bit technical, like subjunctive and jussive. There's no like meaning to it. It's just that it applies in grammar to the specific concept, and the mood is just indicated by this end suffix. You know, whether it's a fatha or a sukun, or whether there's an absence of a noon like yaktuba and not yaktubani, or yaktubu and not yaktubuna. So the suffixes and in the singulars, the fatha or the sukun is the main feature that you're looking out for in these moods. And those very same tables apply to all the form 2, 3, 4, 5 up to 10 that we're going to be studying going forward now. So this is the grounding that applies across to form 1 as well as all the other forms as well. Okay, so if you look at it in another way, this is like a comprehensive, like a summary sheet. You've got your two tenses on this side, and you've got your three main modes on this side. And it's essentially what I've said it in detail, so I won't repeat myself, but these apply to all the 10 forms as well. So when we do the 10 forms, I'll take one verb and I'll come back to the slide and we'll slot it in. Instead of kataba, we'll put that verb in the place of the three letters of kataba, and then you'll have the same thing, the ya in front, and giving you this voweling to show that it's the subjunctive mode or the past tense or the present tense or whatever the case may be. And we'll come to that just now. But if you understand how it applies to first form, that's the main thing. Then this is the same thing we're going to apply to the other forms. Now, for those of you who might want to see a summary and read these little, I've just summarized what I've told you. I'm not going to read this line by line. It's essentially what I've indicated, you know, in different persons, how things change from past tense to present tense to subjunctive, jussive, and imperative. Okay, so you notice here there's no third person and there's no first person, but essentially there's a lot of similarity between the subjunctive and the jussive, except for that feature. Here's a sukun feature that comes in. There's the one distinguishing factor between the subjunctive and the jussive. Right, and here in the present tense, the normal is just and all that. Okay, so these are, if you just want to see it in a table form, this is what you look at, and you'll be able to work things out. All right, now this slide, I think I've shown this before, but just to recap, because it's important for the next one of the verb forms that has the same vowling as it was, similar but different as it was as well. So the one group we have is kataba darasa, which if you look at the present tense is yaktubu and yadrusu. So if you look at the vowel here, it's a dhamma, right? Then we said when you come to the command form, you have to use the alif for the dhamma. Okay, for these two. So it's got it in one shade of color, right? Then we have another type like abara ya'biru and jalasa yajlisu. So if you look at the middle letter here, this is got a kasra here and a kasra here. Okay. Now when it's a kasra, then what happens is that ta of the second person jussive, you have to change it to an alif in order to get to the imperative. So when you put the alif, you now have to decide, do you put a u, a, or the e? You know, which vowel fits on that particular alif. Now we've covered the u version already, right? So the u applied in this case where the middle letter has got a dhamma, so the alif takes a dhamma. Here, because it's a kasra, the rule is the alif takes a kasra as well. Okay? So in a sense, this one I kind of agrees, but it goes further. If you look at this third variety of the first form verb, you have shariba and yashrabu. So you get some verbs that take a fatha in the middle letter. Here, alima becomes ya'lamu. Right? So this fatha also takes an alif with a kasra. Right? So this is the one like exception that you need to remember. Right? That in the first form, the both a kasra as well as a fatha take an alif with a kasra at the beginning of the imperative form, imperative mode rather. Okay, so that's the one feature. So you notice what's missing is we've covered the kasra, right? The kasra is done. The fatha hasn't been covered. You know, where we have alif with a fatha to introduce an imperative, and that's the one we'll be looking at in one of the forms just now when we look at form 4. Okay, so keep that in mind. I'm just showing you this because this is the one slight distinguishing factor of form 1 to another form verb in terms of the imperative. All right, so keep that in the back of your mind. All right, then we move on to how do the differences between form 1 and all the other forms that we're going to be studying, how do they appear? So form 1, in my estimation, and there's nothing scientific about it, I'm just guessing, I'm saying you find a lot of verbs right? Form 1. Whereas the others also gives you another maybe 50% more or less, right? And what these verb forms or derived forms give you from form 2 to 10 is different nuances of that verb or that action that's being described. So like kataba can be kataba, to give you this meaning in green, and takataba, where there's a ta and an alif. So here we had just an alif. So kataba became kataba in this one, right? An alif infix, and here it became ta and an alif infix, and then right. So the kataba is still there as a root. Can you see kataba? But you had two extra letters, one a prefix, one an infix, to give you a different sense, different type of meaning. Where here we're talking about like writing between two people, right? You corresponding with somebody, right? So that is expressed in another form of the verb. So it's a slight like giving a different meaning to the verb. That's all that it's doing. But other than that, all the other rules apply about present tense, past tense, imperative, jussive, right? Likewise, to take another verb, to kill, that's a form 1, qatala. And if you use qatala, which is with the tajdeed on the middle letter, you get a more emphatic kind of killing, where you're massacring somebody, right? You're killing like incessantly, like right now it's happening in Gaza as well. So this would be another form to express killing, but on like a grand scale or in a more sort of pronounced or I don't know, usually effective, but I mean, it's basically killing on another scale, like so. So that's the kind of nuance it gives you in difference in terms of meaning. In terms of, we said past tense, moods and endings, prefixes, suffixes, all that applies in both first form and all the other 10 forms, right? Then the derived forms take on specific prefixes and infixes, and this is what we'll cover now. So making each one unique, and once you get used to it, it's very easy to identify them as well. Now, this is a table, a summary of the 10 forms. Now, I know it looks a bit daunting and it looks like a lot, but I think I gave you this analogy of how you eat a camel before, and that it's, camel looks like a very big thing, but if you break it down into chunks and you bite it morsel by morsel by morsel, you will actually be able to eat an elephant, right? So essentially, the 10 verb forms look like a mouthful, but you need to just understand it. Now, what they've done, and most grammarians do this, is they take like a base word, and it's like taking something at random. So like in English, if I want 3 letters, normally people say ABC, right? Or XYZ. Now, in English, the A is actually a vowel, and the B and the C are consonants, right? You remember that? So A, E, I, O, U are the 5 vowels, and the rest are consonants. So ABC is not a good example because in Arabic, we need solid letters. So that's why they take fa'ala, this verb. Well, it's also a verb, fa'ala, right? Fa'ala. But it's a random selection of a word, right? Fa'ala. And why they choose fa'ala is then you can see exactly what are the features that are different from what is a form 1 verb to a form 2. Right? Now, we showed in a previous slide the fact that this imperative takes u and it takes e. Right? Remember? So this is the form 1 two varieties that we get. We get that, and then we get these two here that give you the option of why I've only done three sort of columns. It's essentially that's the most important thing in the verb you remember is one is the past tense, which looks different. Then you have the present tense and the future tense, which looks like this. And by further morphing of the word, you have the moods coming in, right? The subjunctive, the jussive, and the imperative. Okay, all that falls into this category where slight change on this word gives you either one of these moods, right? Any of them, and that we've covered quite in detail already. Now, the other thing why the numbers are in these kind of, the way we underwrite, right? Normally 1, 2, 3, 4. And then the Roman numerals are written like a capital I, capital 2 I's, capital 3 I's, and then 4 is written I and a V. So why this is also shown here is because if you look at an Arabic dictionary, and the Cohen dictionary is one of the best, you'll find that this is what they use, the Roman numeral indicator. So they'll give you fa'ala as the verb, and say if that verb has got a third form to it, then they'll simply write 3, but they won't write this word fa'ala. From your study, you associate 3 with this feature of the alif infix here. So you basically need to know grammar, just this little bit of grammar that I'm teaching you today, in order to be able to use an Arabic dictionary, right? So let's start off with form 2. Form 2, you notice, if you compare this verb to this verb here, from form 1 to form 2, the only difference is this tajdeed here. You see the tajdeed on the middle letter? So it's fa'ala, okay? From fa'ala, just ordinary 3 fathahs in a row here, it becomes fa'ala. So it's still 3 fathahs, but with the extra tajdeed. So the tajdeed is a characteristic feature in the form 2. Right? And if you notice the present tense, you notice that tajdeed is coming in again there. There's it. And then yufa'ilu is the formation of the vowels, right? So it goes like you, then the next one is fatha, then it's a kasra, and then a dhamma, right? So it takes a bit of a, like what I've got here is a V shape, right? So if you look at a V, it's something like it goes in this way, like that, right? The voweling of the 4 letters, with the tajdeed being there in the middle as well, right? So the tajdeed comes there. So yufa'ilu is the present tense, and if you want to make it subjunctive, it's yufa'ila, and if you go jussive, yufa'il, and if you go imperative, notice what happens here. The initial alif nun yata that we had here, the ta, from the jussive, falls away. In its place here we put an alif, but here in these forms, you notice there's no alif, right? This one takes an alif because by virtue of it being a form 4 verb with the alif prefix here, it takes the alif, but this is the verb, the form that takes the alif with the. Here we had alif with dhamma, here we had alif with kasra. So this is the third variation coming in a specific form, right? The form 4 verb that takes alif with a fatha. You notice this is a kasra here, so there is a kasra version here as well, but you don't confuse that because this one takes a specific form because it shows it's a 4th form. All right, so why I've indicated it in green is because these 3 have the same vowel patterns. If you notice, the ya got a dhamma here, the ya got a dhamma here, and the ya got a dhamma there. Then the verb itself, fa'ala, from here, you're getting the fa'ala still there. You see fa, alif, ain, lam. And the only difference is the ain takes a kasra here. yufa'ilu. Okay, so that's the same pattern of vowels coming in here. Yufa'ilu. Can you see yufa'ilu? Right? So, and then this one also notice the alif, the ta falls away of the jussive, and you just get fa'il, meaning the imperative of that particular verb of the third form. Right, then af'ala is the third one, with now this one had an infix of alif, this one's got a prefix of an alif, right? So it's before the fa'ala 3 letters, you have the prefix of alif coming in front. And here again, you notice what happens here is that alif falls away, and this is the unique thing. Here you notice it becomes like a 3-letter verb instead of a 4-letter verb, right? Because the alif nun yata comes in front here. So here it's yuf ilu is the combination of the vowels, which is the same vowel combination here. Can you see dhamma, fatha, kasra, and dhamma? That formation is here as well. Then af'il is the differentiator from the form 1 imperative. Okay, so that's the 2, 3, and 4. Now we go on to 5 and 6. Now 5 and 6, if you look at 5, it's got fa'ala again and a ta in front. So it's basically this form 2 and the form 5 looks similar, except for one extra letter in the front. You see that? Then we have the present tense, takes alif nun yata in front. Then there's the tafa'ala still there. And notice here, in this particular one, all fathas here. Right? Here also, all fathas with the last dhamma to show present tense. If it was fatha here again, it would be the subjunctive mode. If it was sukun, it would be jussive mode. Right? Yatafa'al, yatafa'ala, etc. Then notice the imperative doesn't take an alif. It just keeps those 4 main letters. The sukun comes in there to show the command of the first form. Okay, so can you see the pattern there? So all of these got, as it were, a straight line voweling, like all fathas and dhammas on. Can you see? They're on top here, and here on top as well. Right, so that's why I call it straight here. Right, form 6 is, if you look at fa'ala, we go to tafa'ala. So again, you're taking the same form 3 verb this time, and you're adding a ta to it, and fa'ala was here on top as well. Right, then yatafa'alu is the present tense, and tafa'al is the imperative of it. So this one is again very, so this one had a tajdeed, here also is a tajdeed, but it also had a ta in front, right? So it's ta plus tajdeed. Here it had an alif infix, here it's a ta with the alif infix. Okay, can you see the similarity between this and this one and that one? Okay, so it's fairly easy to remember. If you remember 2, 3, and 4, and you remember 5 and 6 is building up on 2 and 3. All right, then the last group is this sort of pink or purplish kind of group that I've got here. It's called 7, 8, 9, 10. Now, 7, I remember it is, I just think of it as, just think of 7 being like the in thing, right? Like modern in, right? Something that's in. So in is the prefix here, and fa'ala is the 3 root letters. So in fa'ala, anything with the in and a noon coming in with a sukun like that, then it's, you think of it as, just try and remember it to be the 7th form, right? So 7 days a week, think of it as in, right? Just link the 2. And you find once you link the in there, then the notice the alif nun yata comes in here again. Yan fa'ilu is the present tense. Right? And in fa'il here, you notice the alif coming in, but it's obviously with the noon, so this is the 7th form. Here's an indicator with the noon that it's a 7th form verb. And the noon coming in the 7th form. The 8th form, if you notice, it's got an alif in front and a ta infix. Ta that came in between. And ifta'ala, yafta'ilu is the present tense, and ifta'il is the imperative of it. Right. Form 9 is unique in that it's a very rarely used word form. I think I only found about 4 or 5 words that follow this pattern. It's used just for expressing colors as well as the defects in the body, right? So, and even if you don't remember it, it's no big deal because this one is hardly used anyway, right? It's just very, very rare that you use it, and I'll show you an example when you use it just now. All right. The last one is very easy to remember. Alif sin ta, istafala. Anything with alif sin ta, and if you look at it in terms of the number of letters, this has got 6 letters here at the end, and that's the longest verb form from all of these. This whole table, it's got 6 letters, and the number 10 goes with the 10, alif sin ta, right? And yastafilu and istafil is the imperative. Now here I've written the pattern to be zigzag. Now what I mean by zigzag, it starts like at the bottom. No, let me explain it from this one here. Right? It starts from kasra. We put kasra followed by sukun and followed by 3. All right, so you notice that pattern there. If you look at ifta'ala, it's got the very same sort of vowelling. Right? Can you see the alif takes the kasra and then it carries on like that? This one you just ignore. And here istafala is the same. Well, in a sense, because there's extra letters, you will have to have an extra vowel as well there. But if you look at it, goes is, then this one is the, and then there's another extra, then. So this is an extra thing that comes into particular in this 10 form. Now, why I'm showing you this one, which is for the same lettering, is just so that you can see the features like clearly. Because if you think fa'ala is the root, and you can substitute fa'ala by kataba or laiba or whatever, although in not every form 1 verb will appear in all these form 2 and form 3 and form 4. Sometimes a form 1 verb will just have a form 2 and maybe a form 4. Another one might have a form 1, a form 2, and a form 5, right? And maybe a 10. So verbs differ. Each one is unique in that which ones gives you a derived form. It doesn't apply across the board to everyone. So just keep that in mind, that you won't technically find like this, even if there's a verb fa'ala, you won't find this variation that I'm showing you on this sheet to apply even to that verb fa'ala, the real verb, right? Although we said this fa'ala is just simply like an XYZ, a random 3 letters chosen to show you the pattern and how prefixes and infixes appear in it, and it just highlights the prefixes and infixes a bit more by using a similar verb, or rather the similar 3 letters of the root that we chose, which is fa'ala. Now, this one looks a bit complex in it, but don't be afraid. It's something that it will come with practice, and it's easy to even remember and to use. Okay, let's look at now specific verbs. Now, I learn my 10 forms with a specific example of a real word, right? So we have kataba is a real word, and that's why we used it with uktub. And jalasa is a real word to sit. Ijlis is sit. Alima is to know, and i'lam is to know, right? Is a imperative or a command. Now here we have a real verb. From alima we get a second form, which is allama. You remember Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq khalaqal insana allama al-insana bil qalam. Remember allama? He taught, right? So this is the second form. Yu'allimu is the V-shaped fouling that I showed you. It goes like that, and then the V there. Yu'allimu, and then allim is the imperative of it. Kataba is a real example of kataba in another form. Yes, from form 1 you get a kataba version of it, which is a form 3. And yukatibu katiban. Then alima also you get in the 4th form, which is alama. There's the olive coming in there. That's the here it was a leaf there. Here it was a tashdid there. Those are the 3 main features in this light green rose. Then we have the form 2, giving you a form 5 as well, where allama is to teach, And yata'allama is to learn. So when you do it yourself, it's form 5. When you do it to others, it's to teach. Right? So it gives you the difference in meaning from alama to ta'allama. Now notice the present tense. Here's the present tense. Alif nun yata coming in. Yata'allamu, ta'allam. In tanawala is also a real word, means to partake of or to eat. Yatanawalu and tanawal is the imperative. Then, for those of you who've been to campus, you know MSA, the Muslim Students Association, had, I don't know if they still have it, but in my time they used to have a magazine called Inqilab. Inqilab means revolution or something that overturns or upturns things, the status quo, right? So Inqalaba is the root. From here you get the word Inqilab, which is revolution. So I remember the 7th form, the in thing, right? As Inqilab as by association, then I know anything with the noon in front, I suspect sometimes can be a noon with a sukun can be a 7th form verb. A noon with a dhamma or noon with a fatha can be the innate, naktubu and or the passive can give you the dhamma formation. Idea is a noon with a sukun. So that's the differentiating feature, is a noon with a sukun that gives you the 7th form. This one is an easy one to remember. If you think of the Tabligh Jamaat and the Ijtimas they have often. Ijtama'a means together or to have a gathering. So Ijtama'a, you notice the alif and the ta there, then Jama'a is your root. Jama'a is together or to collect something. Jama'a. Ijtama'a is together, people or in a group, like in a conference together. Ijtama'a yajtami'u. Right, now the form 9, now if you know your colors, Ahmar is the color red. It's spelled like this, Ahmar. Ahmar. Right? And the feminine is Hamra. Right? So Ahmar and Hamra is the color red. This is masculine and this is feminine. This one is easy to remember if you think of your Spanish history. You know the Alhambra, the Alhambra, or the famous red castle that was built by the Umayyads in Spain long ago. So you get Hamra from the feminine of red there. So if you know Ahmar is red, this actually means to become red, or in human terms, we even say when someone blushes, then you can say ihmal wajhu, you can say his face turned red or it blushed. Right? So you can use the verb ihmal to express that turning of red or the color red. Iswadda is another one from Aswad. Hajar al-Aswad, is a black stone. Aswad is the masculine and Sauda is the feminine of the color black. And so ihmalla, yahmalu, iswadda, yaswaddu is the form of past tense and present tense. In this one, you don't generally get an imperative. You can't command somebody to become red or black or something, right? So you don't have it there. So this is more for colors and defects. Then the last one is easy to remember, alif sinta. Istighfar, which is to ask for forgiveness. So astaghfiru, from here, astaghfiru, the present tense, I ask for forgiveness. And istaghfir is asking Allah forgive. Istaghfir, yarham Allah, the imperative of the command. So if you can remember this table with the specific examples that are indicated, and you can choose any example that you can remember or associate best. And I'll give you further examples of all these forms just now. Common words that some you'll sort of will be able to identify with, some will be new to you. But whichever one you can identify with, like here, for instance, you might know the word wadda, right? Sorry, what? All right, I'll come to this example just now, so I just leave that out. I'm just getting the spelling, whether it's a dal or a dot. Okay, so if you remember this table, this is the key to your unlocking the treasures of verbal forms in Arabic. And how we're going to remember this, I'll give you a little clue just now. If you look at this one here again, now it's nice initially as a learner, make this into a cue card. Just print it, keep it with you. keep it as even a bookmark in your Quran. And every time you come across something and you want to cross-check it, you can just refer to this table. Here I've shown it in colors, but it's a bit hard to see. Can you see this kasra here and a fatha here? Right, and here it's a kasra and here is a kasra. Right? So it's a bit hard to see in this color that I've shaded it in, but essentially that was the feature I'm showing you there. Here it was the sukun. Okay, this feature is this tajdeed, the double, not the sukun, sorry, the tajdeed. Here it was the alif infix. Okay, and here it is the alif prefix. So one was the infix and one was the prefix to the word. And this V-shaped voweling, we said it goes that way, that way, that way, right? You alimu, you katibu, you alimu. It gives you the same V-shaped formation. Here we said the ta is a prefix and a tajdeed in the middle. Here it's a ta prefix with the alif infix as well. So if you remember, these two got these two features coming in on the words. And here we said 7 is the in thing, okay? And 8 is, if you think of ijtima, and 10th form is istighfar, astaghfirullah. Okay, so if you can remember this all the time, keep this in the back of your mind. So when we do any analysis, you'll use this and it will make sense. Right, now I'm giving you just examples of words. In form 2, we said the main feature is the tajdeed in the middle letter. So there's one letter here, the second letter, and the third letter. Right? 1, 2, 3. Tajdeed here in the middle. Darasa, allama, sallama, faddala. Can you see the tajdeed coming in all of them? Right? All of them have got the doubled middle letter. Right? So that's a feature of the form 2. In terms of meaning, both darasa and allama is the same thing, means he taught. And from here you get the noun form mudarris, and here you get a muallim. Mudarris is a teacher, muallim is also a teacher, because essentially what those people do is they teach. Right? So this is the verb from, that you extend it and you get the duo of that being called a mudarris and a muallim. Right, the present tense, you notice it's got all the same features, the ya, the dhamma, all of them in the front. Ya dhammas, can you see ya dhammas right in the front? And then the 3 letters with the penultimate or the second last letter always taking a kasra as the feature of the second form, and the kasra appearing on that tashdid there. Right, and then if you look at the imperative, we take out the alifs here, and then you just get the remaining letters, what they kasir, assis, faddil, etc. to give you the imperative. All right, so from this group here, you can remember anyone you like if you want to associate a form 2 with a specific example of a word, right? And once you know that word, then it's sometimes easy to remember. Just the word salama has got 2 shades of meaning. One is to preserve or protect, and the other one is to greet, like to say salam to somebody. You will use the word salam, salim, baligh salami ila. I'm just convey my salams to whoever you want to send to. So salama is the verb to greet. Okay, let's move on to form 3. Here we said the alif infix is the main feature. You notice there's a alif coming in there, alif there, alif, right? And these are verbs kataba, safara. From here you get musafir. Hajara, you get hijra from here, and the migration. Kafara, kafir is a person who disbelieves. Qabala is to meet, and Sa'id is a helper. So any of these verbs can help you to remember form 3. Right, and the present tense is indicated there with that same falling in the V shape. It goes that way, and then down and up. And those vowel signs, can you see they all the same in all of them? Present tense. If you change this last letter dhamma to a fatha, you get a subjunctive mode. If you change it to a sukun, you're getting a jussive mode. And then the imperative is this particular column here, where here you notice there's no alif that comes in here again. It's simply the actual word without the ya in front. You see in all of them. Then obviously the other feature is it's got a sukun in the end to show that it's a command form of it. Right, then we go on to form 4. Here you notice the alif prefix, and it happens in all of them, right? So akhbara, aslama is to accept Islam, arsala is sent, ajaba, jawab is an answer, so ajaba is the verb form, he replied, aghlaqa is closed, awqafa is he stopped, waqafa is also to stop, but this is, you're causing something to stop. Asra'a is to sari'a, means in a hurry, and ata is he gave. Right, and the yas, just takes the damaya, and also the vowel formation is the same, that V shape that we said, you, the U there, the sukun there, the kasra there, and the amma there, that V shape vowel that we said. Right, and here we said all the alifs take fatha. The differentiating feature between a form 1 and a form 4. Form 4. Okay, just to look at some quick examples from the Quran. Sirat al-Ladina An'amta alayhim is from Surah Fatiha. Now, if you look at this ayah here, An'amta, there's Na'ima is the root, alif prefix. So what will this correspond with in terms of this table here? It will look like this one here. Can you see? An'amta and Ama, and then you're adding your tatumatum to show you singular, right? So Anama is the actual verb here, which corresponds with this Alama here. You see the same number of letters, the same voweling in the past tense. I'm showing you past tense here. So Alama is An'amta. Yeah? Same. Arsala, same thing. You look at Arsala is the same form 4. At'amahum is also a form 4. Amana is also a form 4, but here is different because we have Amina is the root. You add an alif in front and then join the two alifs, you get Mana. Right? So that's how you get form 4 here. For Salli, here you get a fur is ignore the fur because fur is like were. Salli is to pray salah, make pray, right? And Salla, Salli is the verb. So if you spell it, it looks like this. Salla, and then you Salli, right? So there's your 3 letters, but the ya is weak. So in the command form, the ya fell away, and you're left with Salli, right? To show command of the second form. Wanhar is a first form verb, a normal first form. There's, although you're seeing a noon there, but it's not how many letters here. You're looking at young Kalibu. You see, you're looking at a noon plus 3 letters. Here you're just looking at a noon and 2 letters. So this is normal first form. There's only 3 letters. Nahara, noon is part of that form 1 verb. Wanhar is just to show the imperative or the command of it. This one is A'ata yu'ti. Now, A'ata is spelled like this. A'ata. A'ata. So you notice it's got 4 letters. Alif is a prefix. So if you come to this table here, which form does that give you? It's also actually a form 4. Can you see A'ata? This one here is the same as that. And yu'ti, you notice it's yu'ti. Here's the U, the Dhamma, yu'ti. Right? Is to grant or to give. Fatarada, radia, tarada is a normal first form verb. Fatarada, yaradi. Fatarada, yaradi, fatarada. Fatarada. Right, we'll just leave this one out for now. We need to check on that one. And then for hadith, this one here is got a super tashdid here. So this one is obviously this. This one. Can you see that? You ignore the fur. And then hadith is this imperative of the form 2. Okay, so I'm just showing you how this cue card table of yours is an important thing that you try and make a note of and remember And you can substitute all these verbs with any verb that you like that follows on the same pattern or on the same scale as these, something that will refresh your mind and remember that, make it easy for you to remember it. All right, so I'll stop at this point. Uh, we'll look at a few more examples of this form 2 to 4 next week in the next lesson, and then we'll carry on with the other verb forms as well, where I'll show you the actual, how they look, more examples of each, as well as examples from the Quran and other literature to show you how that really applies in real life. Okay, so with that will end on the Wal-Asr. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Wal-Asr. Innal insana lafi khusr. Illa alladhina amanu wa amilu s-salihat wa tawasaw bil haqq wa tawasaw bis sabr.